Another day of wickets, lots of them, and that makes for certainly eventful Test match cricket, compelling conversation, which we shall have on ESPN Cricket for Match Day. 22 wickets have fallen in 2 days of the New Year's Test at Johannesburg. We're averaging more than 10 wickets a day now. So you think by that logic that this Test match would not go to day 5. So let's get busy in conversation, shall we? A Test match that is deliciously poised as India have managed to pick up a few runs towards that final half hour or so. Pujara and Rane, of all people, that's the story we're writing of. Pujara and Rane to bail India out after South Africa managed a slender lead. 58 is India's lead, as Stumps is called on day 2. Sanjay, Manjrekar and Daryll Cullinan have the unenviable job to try and sum that day up and tell me who the happier dressing room would be. Sanjay, let's start with you.
It's going to be a good test match, considering that we have two teams with quality bowling lineups and a tricky pitch. Indian batting now weakened by the absence of Virat Kohli and the out of form number of batters growing in that list. So this is going to be an exciting test match. But considering everything, and with South Africa batting last, you would think India slightly ahead with the chances of winning.
Yeah, I'm going to get into a more detailed conversation about the surface as well with the pitch doctor that we have on our show, and Daryll Cullinan. No one knows the wondrous surface better than him. Sanjay called it tricky. I wonder if you've got more colourful words for it, Daryll. But before that, how do you sum up the day?
I think it's been a good day for both teams, but I think ultimately you don't want to be the side having to face batting last. The question's just going to be, what do India think's enough and what South Africa don't want to chase, because that wicket has not flattened out as I predicted come day 2 and day 3. It just gradually got worse.
Okay, if I'm someone who looks at the scorecard at the end of the day without having watched much of the cricket, I'm quite confused because you're seeing Themba Bavuma get a half century at a strike rate of over 80. At the same time, if you look at Dean Elgar's innings, you think that there wasn't a ball worth scoring off with the sort of passage of play that he went through. So let's break the day up and start with the morning session. It seemed like that session kept India in it, or that Elgar innings, Daryll, it kept India in it. Now, is that unfair to Dean Elgar? Was it really a treacherous or challenging surface that he couldn't do more out of?
I think it was always going to be tough. Let's be honest. Let's give him credit. He's not the sort of player that dominates as such. He's your classic accumulator of runs. He's strong through the leg side. He'll push at something when it's up there. You really have to look at the likes of Bavuma, who got in once again, striking at 85, I see. So boundaries were on offer. It's just kind of what happens in and around there. And I won't be surprised if the chatties, it's a sort of wicket where you never in. So you might be thinking every ball's got my number. It's not that easy. But like all test matches, if you look back on them, once it's completed, you say, well, if we just got another 10 there, we got another 20 there. Perhaps if I'd spent another half an hour there. But I think it was probably as good as South Africa could have done. They didn't capitalize on one or two plays. It needed a decent partnership. India will need that now in the second innings. But give credit to the bowlers. It's been their test match so far and will probably continue to be so.
Sanjay, you have something to add to that, or should I come to my next point?
More or less what Daryll said. Dean Elgar is the accumulator. But if you look at guys like even Peterson, I was really impressed with the way he batted. Yes. He didn't look in great trouble. So guys who are more equipped with good defense and good technique are just making this pitch look a little easier. Not to say that the pitch is easy at all.
There was an opportunity for South Africa. They were 2 for 100, and you think there lies a chance to get a significant lead, maybe even bat India out. If it didn't happen, Shardul Thakur had other plans. Curiously, Sanjay, KL Rahul went to R. Ashwin before he did to Shardul, to Mohammad Siraj, who we were surprised to see back in before Shardul Thakur. Doesn't seem to exude a lot of confidence as a seamer, Shardul Thakur. And then this happened. 7 wickets. What a story.
Yes, and I'm not surprised. I mean, I'm surprised that he got 7 wickets, but I'm not surprised every time Shardul Thakur picks up wickets. When you look at his short test career, in the first test match, if you remember, he's just hobbled off without, actually bowling much in that test match. After that test, there's only been one where he hasn't got a wicket. So every time he's bowled for India, he's got wickets, and he's that kind of a bowler who puts the ball where he's likely to get wickets. That also makes him a little more expensive. Take the example of Marco Jansen, who was looking to hit out at that stage, but the wicket ball that Shardul Thakur bowled to him was right there in the slot. So he's one of those bowlers who will take a chance. Either he'll go for 4 or he'll get a wicket. And that's one of the reasons why CSK play him. Dhoni has never dropped Shardul Thakur. And he's one of those underrated bowlers that you think is at best fourth seamer in the side, somebody that you can knock off runs against after playing off Bumrah and Shami. But he's got some, very street smart kind of cricketing brain, and he knows where the wickets lies. And I'm really happy that India have backed Shardul Thakur in 2 Test matches, because this is a guy who knows how to get wickets, and he will now start challenging Mohammad Siraj for that third place seamer in the side.
How interesting is that? He tends to cop some, let's just call it humor, banter from social media, because you look at him and you think this guy's not one to scare batting units, Daryl. But how do you explain Shardul Thakur's success? So many bowlers like Shami, Bumrah get to beat the ball so often. Shardul seems to find the nick more often than not.
Well, if you remember, after the first Test match, I questioned his ability as a fourth seamer. Should India look to select him in the second Test match? But I think let's give him credit for Siraj not bowling. India needed someone to step up. And we spoke about it yesterday, how India often have shown that ability. When someone's down, someone's not there, the batters or the tail needs to do something. So at the end of the day, it was hugely impressive. We saw, as was the case yesterday, a lot of balls did too much. But to run in and get 7 for 61, he's put critics like me to bed here in terms of our opinions of his bowling.
What's the verdict on the surface, though, Daryl? And there would be an asterisk that said that Shardul Thakur couldn't have asked for a better surface if he had to pick up a 7 for lots of assistance, even when he was bowling with a 40-over-old Kookaburra ball. So what's the verdict on it for a day 2 surface? Were you okay with it?
Well, I've had a great Test match. I said, well, if he will bowl above 140, got to 125. I said the groundsman's the best in the country. I still say that, but he's had troubles. I think it's a question of, I'll look into it again. And my worry and concern is that we may go back to 2018, where the match was within an over or two being called off. I can't really see that happening. But if we have a dry night, we have a warm sun in the morning, I think the saving grace may be that we won't go to 5 days, because I cannot imagine what the surface will look like on day 5. But it's not the type of surface that you'd want ideally for any Test match anywhere.
Sanjay?
Yeah, same thoughts, and it's happening a bit too frequently. The last time India played, the match wasn't called off because India was very keen to play. Virat Kohli wanted to continue batting on that surface. There was every good reason for that match to be abandoned for a pitch that was treacherous. So, second time in a row, this doesn't look as nasty as the last one, but there's something wrong there with the surface when you're getting this kind of a bounce of reaction from the pitch, where a ball is suddenly, without warning, kicking from a length. And I just wonder why that should happen. Moisture on day 1, maybe the odd ball, but this is sort of very frequent, and you can see the batters now starting to adjust. India now looking to play some shots, because they have realized if it just keep hanging there, there'll be one that will just come back in sharply, bounce a little extra, get you out. So a pitch that should come under scrutiny once again for the way it's behaved in the 2 days that we've seen so far.
Okay, that for the pitch. Now, this game was so nicely poised after 2 innings. South Africa with a slender lead of 27, Daryl. Did they miss a trick with perhaps tactics from Dean Elgar? Once again, Rabada and Olivier starting. We're not seeing the best of Rabada. 10 overs for 48 between Rabada and Olivier. And the minute Ngidi and Janssen come on, much like the first innings, it seems like a different game.
Well, one's got to ask the question. We posed it in the first innings. Why didn't Ngidi get the new ball? And now where you're trying to keep it tight at the same time you need wickets, he may have been thinking, well, if he got wickets, he may be the guy to go. But I would have looked to have at least started with either one. Janssen's got away with, let's be honest, he's got away with a lot of bad deliveries because of the nature of the surface. But then he's been attacking, he's got a wicket already. But ultimately, I think where South Africa have allowed India a little bit into it, is that they haven't been very tight and consistent. Perhaps Elgar's wanted wickets. Perhaps the bowlers believe every ball should be a wicket. But I think they'll have a good chat and understand tonight that they've got to stay consistently within those areas and not try and do too much. Because, as I said at first up, is what do South Africa not want to see India get? And they don't have a lot of runs to play with.
Sanjay, if you could sum up that last session or so with India's innings given, seems to have just shifted the momentum. India could have been threw down with not much ahead. Suddenly they're 58 ahead. Even these 40, 50 runs seem to be priceless on this surface.
Yeah, a couple of things that frustrate me these days when I watch Test cricket, having watched Test cricket over the years, played as well, is one, of course, the skills of batters in testing conditions, and that's why I was over the moon with KL Rahul's performance in the first inning, because that is the kind of quality of batsmanship that you want to see at the Test level as a standard, but that's become quite rare now. The other thing is tactics, especially of bowlers. I saw that in Australia with their famed bowling attack as well. And today, just watching that last session, it was just ridiculous. And it topped up with Keshav Maharaj bowling that last over, just as a formality. It's like that old-fashioned thing that we do, 1 over to go, let's bowl a left-arm spinner. I mean, how does that make any sense on a pitch that has so much for the seam bowlers? Why not one more over of Lungi and Giri? I mean, just imagine Pujara and Rahane when they see Keshav Maharaj getting ready to bowl the last over. I mean, how delighted would they be? The other thing, Rabada, I mean, what's happened to Rabada is so frustrating watching him as well, that suddenly I think he wants to be the Jimmy Anderson kind of bowler. I mean, the amount of driving balls that he's given to Indian batters, both in the first and second innings, has been ridiculous to say the least. And even in the second innings, I thought he would learn from the first. Although Dean Elgar didn't give them too much, Rabada and Oliver, too much with the new ball, but the amount of driving balls that were given in the Test match by South Africa, when the pitch is your greatest ally, is something that just baffles me. I mean, driving balls, when I was there in the 90s in South Africa, were rare. You would get 2 or 3 per session, but here you're getting almost 3 or 4 per over, and every ball has been driven for 4. So ridiculous tactics from South Africa.
All right, fair enough. Sanjay and Daryll, that's what I like them for. Now, before I look ahead to day 3, I'd love to put them in the officials' chair, both on field and TV, because we had 2 incidents that seemed to irk both sides. Dean Elgar went to the match referee and complained about Rassie van der Dusen's wicket, which was taken at the stroke of lunch, and KL Rahul was visibly disappointed by his own dismissal towards the end of play. So let's get Sanjay's thoughts first up. Are we happy with both of them being given out, Sanjay?
Yes, whatever replays that I got to see, both were good catches. And Dean Elgar, clearly the emotions getting the better of him if he's gone to the officials to get them to have a look at that particular catch. And KL Rahul, you can understand there is a bit of bias there. If you're the batter, you always think you're not out. It was a clean catch. And yes, on both those counts, clean catches. And reaction that I'm sure we'll hear more of at the end of the day from the match referee, from the players concerned.
Daryll?
I think they were both out. Rahul's, to me, was taken by Markram. I didn't see any question around that. I just don't like the idea of the captain approaching the match referee. Just wonder why he's done that. I don't think that's a smart move, not at this stage in the Test match. Not that the match referee can get you out from the top. But, after Sanjay spoke about the tactics, I sat here smiling. Sanjay, I don't think you could have summed it up better. That was beautiful.
Okay.
Wholeheartedly. We raised the point in the first Test match about what's Rabada become? A 135 away swinger hitting his areas, up and down pitch. You would never under Kepler Wessels or Hansie Cronje bowl like that. You're running, you hit the deck, you bowl 2 lengths, I'll give you 4 or 5 tops. We're going to scare the hell out of them right now. We can't be friendly. I don't know what's going on there.
And that's why batters out of form like Pujara and Rahane, always there is hope, because tactics very often these days just defy logic.
Okay. What are we expecting on day 3? Let's get Daryll Cullinan's thoughts. India, 58 ahead? Anything can happen, Daryll. For all you know, these guys will run in tomorrow and get the next 7 wickets for 30, 40, 50. So what sort of number is South Africa looking at, given your previous point that it's not going to be easy betting for?
I think beyond 200 is going to be tough here. I think if they ask South Africa 250, you've got to be back in India. I can't see it being a day that's not been like the first 2 where we've seen 10 wickets. Sanjay called it, India's batting is vulnerable. They can fall quickly. I said South Africa, India can run through them in a heartbeat. I think it's anybody's thoughts at this stage. But with every run and every partnership, India need one good partnership here. 80, 100, and that's the series 99% done. And if India start to push on, let's see Elgar's tactics. Let's see how smart the bowlers are. You get to that point where should we push more wickets? Should we find a balance between attack and defense? You can't. You've got to keep going. There's too much time left. So it's going to be a great test of his captaincy and the bowler skills tomorrow for South Africa.
I guess it works for the narrative and the story as well, Sanjay, that the two informed batters are the ones out. So now it lies in Pujara and Rahane's hands. I wonder if you think that this is perhaps the innings that will decide their immediate future, at least in Test match cricket. And how do you see day 3 going?
See, I still have a lot of respect for Pujara. The thing with Pujara is he'll have 15 or 20 innings failure, but his commitment to his methods of getting runs, and I don't think he's mentally ever confused or doubts his own ability. Ajinkya Rahane, on the other hand, seems to have lost lost his mojo, as I've been saying. So with Pujara, I see some hope. With Ajinkya Rahane, less so. But just coming to the batting lineups of both teams, clearly both teams not at the strongest. South Africa, the weakest batting lineup that I've seen South Africa present in a test match, especially in South Africa. But weighing the two batting lineup, despite Virat Kohli's absence, India far ahead. I think they have more strength. And let's not forget, in a match like this, when it's a low-scoring game, Rishabh Pant is going to be a danger man for the opposition. So I still feel India are much stronger placed, despite the problem they have with their batting.
All right, let's wrap it there. Something tells me we're not going to be having too many end-of-day shows. Tomorrow may be the last one, or at least the penultimate one. Maybe we'll have a little more trickling into day 4, which will have to wake Sanjay Manjrekar nice and early. Not that he's not up anyway in Atlanta, Georgia in the morning, but it's been a fascinating test match. Wickets tend to make for good conversation, and that's always the case with Sanjay Manjrekar and Daryll Cullinan. Gentlemen, thank you very much. Pick up the chat on day 3 on ESPN Cricket for Match Day. Do watch out for reactions from Sanjay and Daryll on each wicket on the scorecard on ESPNcricinfo.com as they run through some of these batters' techniques and where they got it wrong, where the bowler got it right. So it's something new we've put on the site. So make sure you take that in as well by the end of the day. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you.